A visionary leader. Yeah, okay, interesting. In actionable terms, it basically means a leader that can see the bend in the curve ahead of the curve bending. Yeah, so you must see the bend in the curve. And then have the means to respond appropriately and plan for that bend. Mm-hmm. So strategic foresight is quite important. You must be able to understand your operating context and what may change and prepare your organization accordingly. And a visionary leader may, in the corporate context, you can find one. In the social context, you can find leadership is common. It doesn't really have to be centered around the corporate environment. So it's your ability to be able to see the bend in the curve, yeah, and then plan for that. That's a visionary leader. What does it involve? You then, when you see the curve and the bend in the curve, and you can plan for it, and preparing your organization to respond. It means getting your people, giving them the tools to be able to navigate the bend, yeah? Giving them the tools and the guidance to be able to do that. That's in simple terms.
His trail is evident across the continent, having spearheaded campaigns in telecommunications, mining, agriculture and media throughout the region. Today's guest is one of the most sought-after executives, dare I say, on the continent, because he has mastered the art of navigating multiple industries while driving meaningful change, and his leadership. It isn't just about profit. It's about creating a culture of excellence, moving industries forward while being a shining example of what it is to lead with integrity and heart. Brilliant, inspiring, visionary. On Echoes of the Kingdom today, sit back and shut down everything else, because today we are speaking to the Managing Director for Ubombo Sugar Industries, and the Muzi Siyaya Masterclass in Leadership begins now. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Echoes of the Kingdom. If you are only tuning in for the first time, where have you been? My name is Sinetemba Bongo, and this is a production that is brought to you proudly by Umsagato Warangwane. Thank you so much. We have been seeing you interacting on the different platforms. We love talking to you. Thank you for sharing and subscribing. Also, don't keep it as a little secret only for yourself. Please do share with your friends, your colleagues, and your family. As you can see today, we're not in our usual setting at Bahle Pantry. The reason is because we had to take a long drive down to Elbonjenlel to speak to a man who's at the helm of one of the biggest industries in the kingdom. He's worthy of the title of Captain of Industry, and we're very thrilled to have him here on Echoes of the Kingdom. His name is Mr. Muzi B. Siyaya, the Managing Director for Ubombo Sugar. Hi.
Good morning, Sinetemba, and thank you for inviting me to Echoes of
the Kingdom.
Echoes of the Kingdom.
Connecting eras one voice at a time.
Wonderful.
It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
I'm honored to be here.
I like it so much. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Mr. Siyaya, to our audience, is a seasoned executive with extensive experience across multiple industries, including manufacturing, retail, mining, ICT, energy, banking, and so on and so forth. Was this always the plan?
No, it was never the plan. I think as you grow and evolve, you become more curious. It was mostly driven by curiosity. Yeah.
Okay.
I think historically, when you get into the job environment, your intentions, certainly in the early days, your intentions are always to stay in one sector. Yeah. I'll keep this job for life. I'll make an impact. But I think my DNA was slightly different, though. As I gained experience in one sector, I became curious about another sector. Yeah.
What was your first job?
Banking. You'll be quite surprised that it was banking. So my first job was actually at a Swatini bank. Back then, it was called Swazi Bank.
Okay.
And ironically, my first posting was just 10 kilometers down the road from where we are.
Really? So you've come full circle.
I've come full circle. 30 years later, back where I started. So I was employed in Mbabane and posted to the Matata branch at the time, coincidentally, and befittingly so. Government was developing Lusip 1. So all the cane farmers around Spofaneni came on stream around 93 to 2000. Okay. The early farmers that individually went into sugarcane growing. So that was our biggest client base. And many years later, I was to lead a sugar business. I still see some of the guys, and I still remember some of those early farmers that took the plunge to growing sugarcane.
How do you feel about the growth of the sugar industry over the years, especially because you have the reference from back in the day?
Well, it's grown substantially. I think as a percentage of GDP, it's obviously sizable. It's quite significant in terms of tax contribution. If you combine the two, the north is RES and the south is us. But I think more importantly, just the socio-economic impact of the sugar industry is pleasant to see how it's transformed families. I mean, the value chain is quite huge. You've got haulage companies, you've got harvesting companies, you have growers that extensively rely on the sugar. If you take Spofaneni, for example, I mean, the main source of income there is sugar growing. And you can see it's a bustling, busy town. If you go further down towards Nsogo, you can see the quality of the houses. You can see the transformation that's really happened at basic family level because of the sugar industry many years back, because the mill companies were growing their own sugar on their own farms. You wouldn't see that impact. But I think when we expanded sugarcane farming to indigenous farmers on Swazi Nation land is where you see the real transformation. Yeah.
How is this industry different from other industries where you've served? This one in particular.
Interesting. So earlier you spoke about having worked in different sectors. There's a certain level of adaptability that you require to transition from one sector to the other. If we take my role in telecoms, for example, when I was at MTN, customer centricity was at the core of what we do, so you required a bit of agility. When I moved to South Africa, I worked in mining and engineering consulting. That was more of a process-oriented environment. In banking, I was taught compliance, heavily regulated environment. In sugar, you've got a business that is an agricultural element, mostly entry-level employees that can easily be exploited, for example, because they are not that sophisticated. You've got a manufacturing element, highly sophisticated, educated people. So the ability to lead and blend the two was quite a challenge. I'd never had to lead a business with those two separate elements combined together. I come from high knowledge industries where almost everybody is at par to a very manual labor intensive business that has these two elements that I've just spoken about. So it was quite a challenge to adapt.
Is there a particular incident that you recall that comes to mind when you think about just how much of a shock to the system it was?
So for the first time in many, many years, when I joined Ubombo, my first public address to the entire staff complement had to be delivered in Siswati.
I love it for you.
And I'd been out of the country for so long, working in environments where English is the standard business language. Now you come into an environment where you have Mswati, but I've never had to deliver speeches in Siswati.
That was your very first? Not even at family level? Or so it's like a different?
I speak Siswati every time, all the time. But it's different from when you have to address people. You have to use specific words. And back in the day, when I started on this role, I battled. I was very slow because I was conscious of not using inappropriate words. And my colleague, my head of HR, Kabile, has played a substantial role in refining my speech delivery in my mother tongue. Yeah. So that was one of those, almost a humorous moment. And my wife, of course, she's very articulate in Siswati, both written and spoken. Has also coached me, yeah. So I'm much more confident now. Kusukuma mpiko bantu, ngisebenzisa amagama eSiswati laqinile. Or Cebile always says, don't mix, no khoma Swati.
Yes.
But I'm not yet at the level of, I'm close to Minister Commerce Mangoba. He can read a speech in English and in 5 minutes the same speech.
Eloquently
in Siswati. Of course, for the media. I'm getting there.
Okay. Yeah. You're not doing bad. You're not doing too bad.
Yeah.
What has been your highlight in this role thus far?
So there's both an intrinsic highlight as well as a professional highlight. Yeah.
Okay.
So the intrinsic highlight is being able to see how your leadership impacts people across various levels of the organization. Yeah. So we're quite a sizable organization, 3,500 employees. Earlier on, I spoke about the different levels of sophistication that reside in the business. But being able to see that the decisions you make on a daily basis have a fundamental impact on people's lives is humbling, to be honest. So in our business, we employ 3,500 people. If you look at the multiplier effect, the dependency ratio, as the IMF calls it, in Eswatini is 1 to 7. Yeah. So one employed individual looks after 7 people. Yeah. So 3,500 employees times 7, so that's about 24,000.
I'm a journalist.
People so about 24,000 people that directly depend on the decisions we make in this business
every day.
If we then take the outsourced functions and the growers that depend on us crushing their cane for a livelihood, this company socioeconomic impact is huge and significant. So every day when you wake up and you have to make those decisions, you take into account the socioeconomic impact of the decisions you make. In other businesses, it's one head office in a small town. You are in a municipality. Kiniwa will take care of the infrastructure. EC will provide with electricity. Here, we are the municipality. There is no big band without the business. There is no Spofanini without Ubombo. You go further down to Nsobo. So that impact, when you see it on a daily basis, is what makes me wake up every day and gives me satisfaction. That's on the intrinsic value, where you're really making a difference in people's lives. Professionally, I've encountered some of my toughest challenges in my career here.
Really?
Yeah, so an interesting story. It's an interview, right?
Yeah.
Let's relax and be authentic. So when I made the transition so I was hired 6 months before I assumed the role. So I was hired in May 2022 to start in August. In those 6 months, I was obviously shuttling between, I still had to serve 3 months notice, but I was CEO of the business that I ran, and an orderly handover to the board and my successor, etc. But I also used the weekends to delve into what I'm getting myself into, yeah? And that required travel, informal conversations with people in the value chain, growers, ex-employees, some employees that were internal to the business in preparation, yeah? So there was sufficient preparation. But amongst that, in the midst of all that, Eswatini being Eswatini, who is he? What does he know about sugar? Why is he coming here? What has he done? I was relatively unknown to some people, but to other people, especially in the bigger cities where I grew up, I was known. So there was a whole lot of anxiety. This guy doesn't come from a sugar. They made it sound so complicated. And so there was some resistance in some quarters. And it's safe to say that other people also wanted the role, yeah. But I'm in Joburg, I'm absolutely not interested, or even aware who wanted the role. But the level of resistance prior to assuming the role almost made us reflect with my wife to say, why are you doing this? It was almost scary, yeah. You're just getting resistance even before you arrive. So that's the one piece. But when the tar hit the tarmac, oh gosh, yeah, I think I was almost in a mode of prove them wrong. And so the intensity from day one has been extremely high. But the real story here is you found a business that it's a legacy business. Yeah?
Yes, it is.
It's a legacy business. It's 1956, particular way of doing things. We grow cane for 12 months of the year. We crush the cane for 36 weeks of the year. We put it in a bag. We take a break. We start all over again. So certain key elements, organizational elements that are important were lacking. Yeah. So professionally, the challenge and maybe the satisfaction has been to take a legacy business and try and modernize it, whilst not losing sight of the core mandate. So that professional growth is pleasing. Yeah. In my previous roles, you'd come into organizations that are tech-driven, highly mature, in the organizational curve, and heavily reliant on technology to do things, high levels of literacy, etc., complex regulation. In this business, you almost have to say to people, there's a future somewhere else. There's a different way of doing things. And I think the challenges of transforming the organization and aligning people to a shared purpose and a common vision, it's been one of the most challenging initiatives I've ever undertaken as a leader.
The buzzword right now across all industries, mine, yours, literally across all industries, is artificial intelligence. Is there room for that in this industry? And if so, do you have plans to maybe explore that side?
Good question. So in leadership, technology is the buzzword now, but it's contextual, yeah? So we are never going to be a Google or a Facebook or a Microsoft because of the nature of what we do. For us, the technology adoption should be related to our processes. It must make us efficient. So in the adoption curve of technology and the maturity curve, you almost want to move from a stage. The early stage is obviously no technology, where you're reactive. Then you shift to the second stage in the curve, where you start being proactive, having certain technology platforms here and there in your processes. And the last stage of the maturity curve in technology is when you're starting to be innovative using technology. Between proactive stage and reactive stage, there are certain traits that differentiate the two business cycles. So in the proactive stage is probably where I want us to be, where we understand what technology is out there, how we can map it back to our strategy and our processes, and how it can make us more efficient. On the far end, fintechs, banks, extremely have to be innovative because of the nature of their business. In ours, we're a manufacturing business, fundamentally driven by an agriculture product that is stable and predictable. So you almost want technology to bring down your cost of production and help you manage the business better. AI is very important. So the role I see for it in our business is, it can enhance our reporting, for example. We can use it more in the factory in terms of automation in the sugar production process. So it's all related to how it can make us a much more efficient business than being innovative. I think retail-facing businesses or business-to-consumer businesses require technology far more than B2B businesses, yeah. In the B2B context, because we don't sell directly to the consumer, you want to use it in your production efficiencies, yeah.
You also have a significant role within business Eswatini. What has that experience been like for you, having probably the aerial view of the business sector in Eswatini? The common narrative from government is that we want to be a private sector-driven economy. Is the environment enabling for that?
Good question. You ask smart questions, Natab. So, quite interesting. So in South Africa, I was a member of the Black Business Council, yeah? So this is the equivalent of BUSA, but it's an umbrella body for Black-owned businesses in that. So I had a crucial role there as one of the advisors in some of the committees, but also shaped the policy to create space for Black-owned businesses. And when we talk Black-owned, means controlled and owned in terms of equity. So the business Eswatini role came on the back of substantial experience in lobbying and policy influence in the biggest economy on the continent. Yeah. So it's also an elected role, so you don't get appointed. People elect you. Came in very early in my tenure coming into the country. But I welcomed it. So what has it taught me, or what have I seen? I think the collaboration between government and private sector is still adversarial. Okay. It's still us and them. There are pockets of best practice in certain ministries. But if you take the Ministry of Labour example and the regulation there, and how it impacts business, the issues in the Labour Advisory Board not working cohesively, you can see that there's still an us and them posture. If working well, a Chamber of Commerce is supposed to be alongside government in policy development. Government obviously has a mandate to look after the broader interests of society. Labour involved, business involved, and the general, that's their mandate, and the general populace. But where legislation is made in consultation with all social partners, including labour and business, you tend to have a far more agile regulatory environment. I often feel that that relationship needs to improve. Yeah, so that's one aspect. The other aspect is that we do have a listening government, though. So if I look at my experience throughout the continent, our government is one of the most accessible.
Really?
And I think it's got a lot to do with our political structure system. It's very difficult to see a minister in any other country. Just a minister, a government official. Yeah? It's like making an appointment with God. Yeah. So our people are accessible. It's very easy to, and because they're accessible, you're able to influence and shape the thinking. But that's not where it ends. It's what they do with that information and how it filters into policy, into policy making. So that's one. And the last aspect is we are not agile. We're not agile, and I've seen that in my PE role. We're not agile in responding to changes in the geopolitical space. So our policy making is prolonged. For some reason, we're a small country. We should be able to conceptualize, develop policy and get it approved in a matter of time so that it has the impact that we want at the right time. Yeah. Some of the policies we enact into law and gazette into law usually come too far down the line for them to have, by the time we implement, the context has changed again. So agility is also one of the key issues. Otherwise, an enjoyable role does give you a helicopter view of the things that we should do. I also see it as more of a social contribution. It's an unpaid role, so it's a voluntary role. But let's see. let's see what happens. I think one year in office is enough for me in that role.
You have no desire to extend?
No. There's a lot of leadership talent in the country. Other people must get a chance. I'm a firm believer that when you've made a difference, you must hand over to the next person. I don't believe in jobs for life.
Leave while the applause is still the loudest. Makes sense. Yeah. On leadership, what does being a visionary leader mean to you in practical terms?
A visionary leader. Interesting. In actionable terms, it basically means a leader that can see the bend in the curve ahead of the curve bending. Yeah, so you must see the bend in the curve. And then have the means to respond appropriately and plan for that bend. So strategic foresight is quite important. You must be able to understand your operating context and what may change and prepare your organization accordingly. And a visionary leader may, in the corporate context, you can find one. In the social context, you can find leadership is common. It doesn't really have to be centered around the corporate environment. So it's your ability to be able to see the bend in the curve, yeah, and then plan for that. That's a visionary leader. What does it involve? You then, when you see the curve and the bend in the curve, and you can plan for it, and preparing your organization to respond. It means getting your people, giving them the tools to be able to navigate the bend, yeah? Giving them the tools and the guidance to be able to do that. That's in simple terms. What is important about vision, though, is that a vision without execution is hallucination. Yeah. And execution without vision is stagnation. The two go hand in hand. It's pointless to be visionary if you can't operationalize the vision. It's also pointless to focus on doing and not picking up your head and seeing what might come down the road. Complementary. Yeah. You get visionary leaders. I'm a visionary. But there's nothing on the ground that says, this man can follow the vision. So they work hand in hand.
On the subject of visionary leadership, how big a role has mentorship played, if at all, in your life? And what are your sentiments and thoughts around mentorship, and particularly the responsibility that is on the shoulders of leaders like yourself to, by what's in, we lift others as we rise?
Yeah. Good question. And I think there's a lack of that. We don't do enough of that because we always cite busy schedules, etc., or we exaggerate our importance. Leaders do have a tendency of putting the title ahead of the responsibilities. And when you do that, you become inaccessible and you lose humility. So a lot of people have played a role to where I am. You can't discard that. From my mother, from my father, from my siblings, from my friends. If you are intentional about leadership, you will pick up things from everybody that shape your growth and development. So it's only natural that mentorship does play a role. But mentorship thrives when there's curiosity.
True.
When there's an ability to learn. And leadership cannot thrive where there's no learning agility. If you're not able to learn and be taught, you cannot lead. That's the first aspect. Mentorship is a two-way street. The people that need to be mentored need to be absolutely self-aware and clear about where they want to go in life. And again, when we talk leadership, it must be important to clarify this. It's in different contexts here. You want to be mentored because you want to move up the corporate ladder. You want to be mentored because I just want to manage my family well, or I want to manage my small business well. So there's got to be a willingness on the other party, on the mentee, to want to grow. Personally, I think it's probably one of the best forms of training and preparation for leadership is to have somebody that you can bounce. Mentorship is not telling a person what to do, just a sounding board. You still go ahead and make your own decisions, but you've got a sounding board. Am I on the right track? And it's almost a mirror. Am I doing the right things? Because it's so easy to get self-absorbed and think you're on the right track. So mentorship is important. It's always a question of time though, yeah? Because if you do it, you've got to do it properly. So at the moment, I've got about 4 people, and I don't think I'm doing it effectively. The other 2 are almost brothers, yeah. So they've got a front seat role in social settings. When they come to my house, they're able to get mentored indirectly. The other 2 are formal. So in our business, each executive must formally mentor 2 people in my team, the team that reports to me, and we monitor it, and because we believe we have to plow back. So it's an important function. It's almost like parenting. Yeah.
Let's talk about. We'll get to parenting in a bit. Let's talk about accountability. What systems and/or habits have you put in place to ensure accountability at all levels?
Yeah. So accountability and empowerment are 2 sides of the same coin. To hold people accountable, you have to empower them. Yeah? To empower people, you must hold them accountable. In our place, there's a shared purpose, common understanding, a common narrative of what we're trying to achieve as a business. Yeah? That's broken down into very key performance indicators that are measurable. Yeah, this is the performance contract that we have with the business, having understood where we are going. Then we have a performance management system that monitors that, and accountability requires a regular check-in, whether it's one-on-one, outside the quantitative outcomes. Yeah, you almost need to have conversations. So in our business, at first line managers and above, we have clear measurables. They understand what the strategy is. We have regular check-ins and feedback loops. And importantly, we allow people to be autonomous in making decisions. We give them the space to make decisions. So they're empowered. They've got a sense of responsibility. And importantly, the elements, the different functions in the business understand what their role and their contribution to achieving the organizational goals. So having clear measurables, a vision that people understand, a common narrative, measure the performance, give the people the tools to do the work, empower them, and allow people to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. So when people make mistakes, you must always ask the question, what can we learn from this? How can we be better? It's all part of holding people accountable, because accountability goes with a delegation of responsibility.
Absolutely.
So you've got to empower people to make those decisions, but have systems in place to monitor that.
I like the latter part of what you're saying, because it feeds very well into my next question, which is, how have you handled situations where leadership, including yourself, had to take responsibility for a failure?
Interesting question.
It's a good one, eh?
Yeah, so I've been, let's see, this is my 31st year in corporate, 20 of which have been spent in executive roles, yeah? So fairly experienced in leadership. And I've made many mistakes along the way, yeah? If I think of one organization I work for, in Johannesburg, after I moved to South Africa from MTN, we had to launch a product in a highly competitive space. I was at Cell C then, competing with Vodacom and MTN in South Africa, and Cell C was the new entrant in the market. I led a market launch. We had to prepare the channels for the product to go in, but we had not really done sufficient work to understand what the market requires. So that launch was a total failure and millions down the drain. And I had to take responsibility, yeah? And that responsibility involved going to the board and saying, okay, we made a mistake here. Here's how we're going to correct it. Here's how we're going to recover the losses. And because you were able to take responsibility for the failure and have a corrective plan, we're able to be given a second chance to relaunch the product, and the second time with much more success using the failures. But what it does say to the teams is that accountability starts at the top.
Yes.
If the leaders are willing to say, we made a mistake, it inspires confidence in the team. It's a culture thing. Yeah. So you must always use failures as an opportunity for growth. Yeah. 30 years later, experiences are, I still make mistakes. And I still learn every day. It's what makes an effective leader. You must always move away from the concept that because you're the most senior person in the organization, you're perfect. Yeah?
Creating a culture of excellence. What are the non-negotiables in a culture of excellence?
So first, let's talk about excellence. How do you create excellence first? Yeah.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about the non-negotiables. So, a culture of excellence, it has to be driven by culture. What is the culture you're driving in the business? And culture follows vision. There must be a common narrative of what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. Once you have that, you define what are the metrics that will tell us that we are achieving the vision. Yeah. Once you have that, you determine what tools do I need to achieve the vision. And the tools is usually people. It's people-centered strategies. So you can't have excellence where there's no vision. You can't have excellence where your role in the organization at every level is not defined and is not linked to what we're trying to achieve. So when people have a common purpose and they know what their role is in the vision, you can have a culture of excellence. Now, a culture of excellence also requires the leaders to be open to learning. Yeah. So continuous improvement is a key aspect of excellence. What is non-negotiable, therefore, in that context, is learning agility. Everybody in that culture must be prepared to learn so that continuous improvement can thrive. The opposite of excellence, a culture where you don't have a culture of excellence, is where there's no learning. When in an organization where there's no learning agility, there's no propensity to try new things and improve, then you can't have excellence. Because excellence is usually derived from a repeat and consistency in doing certain things. Yeah.
How do you sustain high performance without burning out your team? How do you strike that balance?
It's actually, so if you look at the McKinsey, so McKinsey, blue chip consulting business in the world, they like to position themselves as the smartest consultants. They produce this report every year, the 10 big shifts, global shifts in business. Yeah, you must look forward to it, and they'll tell you what's common, because they're a global consulting business and probably the largest in management consulting. Last year they pointed out in the top 10 of shifts in the global business landscape was the issue of balance, work-life balance. It's prominent. I think it was in the top 5 or top 3 somewhere. I can't remember the data, but certainly in the top 10. So this shift is basically what is happening in business globally, what keeps CEOs awake. They'll publish that, and they'll have sufficient detail, both qualitative and quantitative on how they derive that information. They say work-life balance is so dominant in employees' mind that businesses have to respond to that. Otherwise, they won't survive. Yeah. So we are conscious in our strategies of that, and our business is highly intensive. For 36 weeks, we operate for 24 hours. So there's shifts. Yeah. There's certain aspects of our business that run for 24 hours for 36 weeks non-stop. So we understand that. To manage burnout, first of all, we have to be close to your people. Yeah. So it's not just about the quantitative results. You need to be able to have conversations with people. So the power distance has to be narrow for that to happen. Yeah. And it's an important part of culture. Where the power distance is high, you have a problem. A narrow power distance means leaders are approachable. I can say, the past 2 weeks has been tough. We've had board reports, we've done this, it's been intense. So the importance of being close to people, so you can see them in their human posture as opposed to a tool that does the work, is important. I think the other important thing is reward and recognition. Yeah.
Yes.
So fatigue can come from many things, not just doing the work. It's just because you're demotivated. So recognizing people, not reward. Sometimes just recognizing people for effort, not the actual results, is important. Yeah, keep people motivated. Another important aspect of that is do ensure that what you ask of your people is something that you can do yourself. Yeah, because I can't ask you to do something that I can't do. Yeah. So when people start working extensively long hours, you must ask yourself whether you would be comfortable in that role.
In doing same.
But in our business, because I'm sure the reason you're talking to me is because I'm the MD of Ubombo, so it's important to relate to what we're doing. We have an employee assistance program. In fact, it's being improved now to get qualified social worker, and we've got lots of socio-economic issues given it's a farm. We have a dashboard that just monitors over time across the business. We can see when people are going into what we call the red zone, when you start working hours that are far more than those that are stipulated by law, and the managers in those areas then take appropriate action. Because sometimes people can want to work overtime because they want to augment their income, sure. And not necessarily because there's a business need. So we've got dashboards that monitor that. And it's important to give people a break. So we also monitor leave. When people don't go on leave, we tell them to go on leave.
Really?
Yeah, if you've got too many days, just go.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a countrywide problem where people tend to bank their leave days because they're thinking about tomorrow. When I resign, I can cash my leave days. We those tricks. We'll send you on leave. You must keep your leaves within manageable levels. So, Sinetemba, in short, after a long spiel, is that you must be close to your people to be able to sense whether they are fatigued or it's demotivation. Yeah.
Okay. You recently led the Commission of Inquiry. Now we're coming into education and just context. You recently led the Commission of Inquiry into the University of Eswatini, where there were a lot of problems. What are some of the findings that you can share, whatever it is that you're at liberty to divulge, in terms of what it is that you found there?
Okay, so this one, firstly, I think the Cabinet has not made the report official. Yeah. I think my team and I are presenting to Cabinet in the next week or so. And depending on that, then Cabinet will either make it official or not. So I have to be guided in what I say. So I'll just pick up the generic issues. I think the problems at the university are widely publicized. Government rightfully wanted to find a solution. We had 6 months to do the work. We did it in 6 months. And I'm proud of that because in our country, commission of inquiries take substantially long. Forever, yeah. So we were given the mandate in March last year. No, in August last year, we delivered the report in April. The report has been waiting for Cabinet to review it for the last 2 months, yeah. So we did it in 6 months, quite efficient. Happy with the team that we had. We did a lot of work. What I can say is that is a national institution that should be preserved, yeah. There are a myriad of problems. And some of the things that we report in the press are not far from the truth. So there's real problems there. And government has to act quickly and decisively to restore, the university to what it was before. Because nations now compete on skills. The more knowledgeable countries are able to make significant advancements in economic growth. So when you let your national university deteriorate to the levels that we are seeing, you are eroding your intellectual capacity and eroding your ability to compete, your ability to be innovative. That's all I can say, because I can't divulge the contents until the report is made.
You just responded like a politician, but I understand. Yeah. You spent a significant amount of time working outside of the country. What is it that you found that they're doing differently? I mean, just right next door in South Africa, which is the biggest economy on the continent. What are some of the things that they have in place that we probably can take a leaf from a business side?
Yeah, from a business side.
From a business side.
Yeah, because the government side is almost similar. The government side is almost similar. So, a substantially bigger economy. It's the largest on the continent. Yeah. The South African business environment is driven by meritocracy. You have to be good at what you do. You have to be appointed on competency and merit. Otherwise, you won't survive. They place a lot of importance on merit. That's in the private sector. Yeah, government is a different story. Also, slightly more agile, because it's a hugely developed economy with capital markets and debt markets, the most sophistication. And people there are continuously learning and developing themselves. I've led businesses where people are doing 2 degrees at a particular time to get ahead. After 5, people are going into the various universities to study. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a shift now to a combination of physical lectures and online lectures, but people are continuously trying to get better. They are motivated. The economy is large. There are opportunities. And when the economy is large, it does offer a space. It's a different context in our case. A small economy. Private sector, not as big, but people in our space are not driven. It's the drive and purpose that's the difference. They're fast-paced, huge opportunities at play. In our case, once you get a job, you almost want to keep it until you retire. Yeah, and it stifles innovation. The other major difference is how we lead. So the leadership posture in business in South Africa is different. You are held accountable. You have to put people at the center of what you do. It's multicultural. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to be able to manage the different cultures. So it brings an element of complexity. In fact, it does. 13 languages, 4 different racial groups that are all competing for space. Whereas at home, which can be an advantage. Single tribe, 1 language. Yeah, it could be very easy for us to do it. But I think people lead for results, not to lead people. You must lead people. Yeah, the results will follow. What I've noticed in the last 3 years since I've been here is that there's a distinct difference in how in how we treat people in organizations in Eswatini than my experiences elsewhere.
Okay, let's come down to softer issues now. Sports. A little birdie tells me that you were once linked to Mbabane Swallows, football. What's going on in that space?
So, passionate about football, yeah? If I'd taken football seriously, I would have been a soccer star. I've been saying, that guy that was a former Swallows player. Can you imagine that? But I didn't take it seriously. Yeah. So I think growing up at St. Mark's, a lot of my friends, Lungima, China, Kanya, Liseri, Mofokeng, Hotsum, Kanya, and I work a bunch of boys that just enjoyed football. I grew up in Mbabane Swallows. So at the time when I was at St. Mark's Primary, I was playing for the under-14s at the time. And junior football was very competitive then. We'll cut and race for the main matches at Somhlolo with Manzini Wanderers, Mbabane Highlanders. The big rivals with Highlanders, even when growing up. And I moved on to the under-16s and the under-19s, and I was promoted to the second team. But I was just lazy. In fact, I was always focused on my studies. Even at high school, when other boys my age were bunking class, I would never do that. Yeah,
is it?
And my dad was quite strict and kept a close eye on our academic performance. So I enjoyed school. You know, all those students that class in top 3, very competitive. Yeah, so I was that type of. So soccer then took a backseat. I love partying as well. So anything to do with music and dancing. But people kept saying, "You're talented, man. You must do this thing." So I almost did it reluctantly, but enjoyed it. So I grew up in Swallows. And later on in life, I think when I was at MTN, I tried to get involved in management, but it wasn't for me. It's too complex. Soccer's got politics. It's just a complex thing. And if you're in corporate, you want to stay as far away from football as possible. But I've been recently involved just in an advisory capacity with Masocha, who also feels passionately about the team. They've had lots of problems. And our role has really been to say, have you guys thought of this? You know, you are having factional issues. Yeah. You try and facilitate those conversations. And many of us, Dr. AT, there's a lot of people that are Swallows at heart. Vuselelo's dad used to be a leader in the team, the first director of Mbabane Swallows when we shifted to appointing directors to run the team. So we're all concerned about something that we love that brought us up. And soccer unifies people. And soccer, we're passionate about it. Even today, if I'm free, I can jump on a plane, go to Old Trafford on a weekend, back on a Tuesday because I have to watch a big match. I'm also a big United fan. So my involvement is really in an advisory capacity for a team that I love. Bearing that I also have my own team here. We've got Lovo FC is now going to be changed to Ubombo Sugar FC this year. Nice. And soccer also unifies people in our environment. It's one of the things that we do quite well as a company is supporting cultural and sporting events. It's good for the culture and it keeps people together. So that's as far as it goes. But with that disclaimer that football and corporate leadership, don't quite. Yeah, because the risk of reputational damage and being thrown every day in the papers for the wrong reasons is extremely high in football. It is. Yet we do want to get involved. We want to help teams structure themselves properly, but it's always a red. There's a red line you can't cross. Because you can compromise what matters to you. Any dreams of owning a football club? Absolutely. Maybe once you're out of... Absolutely, even post-retirement. Really? I know football. Okay. I played football. It's toxic. It's not what I want to do. However, if I've got the means, as I often do sometimes, you know, if Mbabane Solo says, "Hey, Baba Siyaya, shotela mandi for this match," you know, consult with my wife because the same money. I will drop. Wise man, it's my wife's money. A penny or pound, a penny or pound to assist. I also see it as a way of plowing back, because those youngsters that are playing for these teams have no other sources of income. They've got families, etc. So the odd back end day when they ask me, but to take ownership of a football team, and not me.
Not sure.
Not me. Post-retirement, I would rather do other things that have a social impact than football ownership. It's got a particular type of person. I'm not that person.
And you're just not it.
Yeah, I'm not that person.
We also have been told that you're quite an avid golfer. We've been reliably informed. What is it about the sport that you find so alluring? Because from the outside looking in, like, what do they do all day? 18 holes, 36.
The best sport ever.
Really? What is it about golf?
What discipline? Yeah. So it's not a team sport, which obviously means you're competing against yourself. It's not good for developing teamwork, because it's an individual sport. I wouldn't use it as a team building tool. But at an individual level, it teaches you humility. It's something you just can't conquer. It's so difficult. You are competing against yourself. You shoot a particular score this week, the next week it's worse, the next week it's better. But you can also have very good days where you just beat your last score, and you can also have bad days, but still have the ability to come back. So it humbles you, because if you're having a bad day, you've got 4 hours of playing badly with 3 other colleagues looking at you, but you still have to be able to have a decent conversation and continue giving it a try. So it's very good for teaching one how to be humble, because failure teaches you humility. So sometimes when you're not playing well, that's what happens. But more importantly, it's actually very good for networking. I say to the people that I mentor, you don't have to take up golf, but do have something in your tools that allow you to be visible, that allow you to talk to people, so you can continuously learn. Leadership is also about visibility. You can't influence if you're hiding. It's one of the differences I've seen with leadership in Swaziland and in other markets. Our leaders are happy to. It's okay to lead from the back. And how do you influence? How do you say to people, this is what I want us to do, this is what I want us to be, if you're not visible? Also, how are you passionate about the brand that you lead if you're not actively promoting the brand that you lead and talking about the good things that you do? How do you retain talent and say, this is the culture I want to work for? How do you attract talent? Say, I want to work for those guys. If the leaders are never seen, they
just remain an enigma somewhere.
You can't do that. You can't only see them in national events, dressing up for national events, but not for their businesses and the passion and the drive. Because leadership has to go with passion. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to have the energy. It's got nothing to do with introversion. Energy doesn't mean you should be introverted, as I am, possibly. There are very visible introverted leaders, but you can feel them in their introversion. Because then when you look at that organization, then you can actually see why there's no energy. Why? Because the leaders, and there are certain sectors where maybe it's not necessary. But if you're at the helm of any organization, NGO, public institution, talk, have the energy, be visible, talk about what you stand for, what you want to achieve, what you want to drive. It drives engagement, employee engagement in particular, because your first and foremost responsibility is to those people that you lead. Your second one is to society, to broader society. You have to be visible, you have to talk to people.
You're very well accomplished and decorated. You've achieved a lot. What are some of the things that still remain on your bucket list? What do you still want to do?
Ooh. This one is not something that I think about mostly. In corporate, I'm doing it for passion now. Yeah? It's also dangerous to lead for money. You're prone to making bad decisions if you take jobs with monetary motivation as the key driver. Yeah. So the higher you go in leadership, the more purpose-driven you should be. More than money. Yeah, the money usually follows purpose. It's very difficult. I've had jokes where women say, hey, this guy keeps telling me about his future plans, vision doesn't put food on the table.
No, it does not.
My daughter always says that too. But you have to have a sense of purpose. Yeah, you have to be purpose-driven. So if you ask me now, I'm also religious. I may not go to church like other leaders every Sunday, be seen in church, but my mom is deeply religious. We've been brought up to believe in prayer, etc. So I would like to think you get to this level not because of your own intellect sometimes, because maybe it's God's will to say, be there, lead, make a difference. Yeah, I would like to continue making a difference in people's lives. How, I don't know, but I think there's a role to plow back if I remain in Eswatini, which might not be the case actually. But this is home, so I like to contribute back all the experience that I have. So, continue some role or the other in advisory capacities to corporates, and that's probably something I'd like to do to plow back. But more profoundly, I'd like to develop young people. I'd like to, if all goes well, set up a leadership type institution where we can develop the next generation of leaders. Other guys will say, that's done that. Now in WhatsApp. That's not something you must aspire to do. It should come as a natural consequence. So there's a thinking to want to plow back and develop young leaders.
As a parting shot, what makes you proud to be Leswati?
We're humble. We're humble people. Maswati mostly are humble. Yeah. If you've worked in other countries, in Nigeria, if you're an expatriate in Nigeria, they want to know, when are you leaving, Baba? When are you teaching us? When are you handing over? I'm ready to take over now.
Yeah, that deserves an entire episode on its own.
Yeah. It's a fast, highly aggressive and competitive environment. South Africans are the same. Yeah. South Africans have low tolerance levels. But nothing but even though on the extreme, chilled.
There's no hurry in Swaziland.
Would say this year I had to next week. I find that quite refreshing. Yeah. And it can be frustrating if you've worked on other fast-paced cultures, but you have to adjust. It's part of leadership. You have to adjust to the organizational context. You have to adjust to where you are. Otherwise, you can't be an effective leader when you always use the same style of leadership. So, si humble, ngiyakuthanza lokho. Angithandi ukuthi sihle sithathe ama-decisions. Cast this name when they make decisions. Yeah, but it's in our nature. And we've got one language.
Yes.
One language.
Yes.
One tribe. Yeah. It's different. You don't have tribal issues in our country. Tensions, yeah. And lastly, the peace is there. Arguably, people have a preference in terms of how they want to be led, etc. But if you... And I work as part of a big multinational that operates across many jurisdictions. In our stable of companies, we are British owned. This is one of the most stable countries or jurisdictions where we operate. There is peace, whether you like it or not, or whether it's superficial or not. From a business perspective, I'm not a politician. I'm not competently placed to say, what is happening in politics. That's for other people. I look at it purely from a business perspective and I say, would I do business here? Yes. Politicians are accessible. Regulation is clear. Maybe slow sometimes to be, but it's a very well-defined regulatory policy. Government does make decisions here, unlike in other countries where you have to speak to 20 people. I just think we can be quicker, but a very decisive government, once you've engaged from a business point of view and understand the context, they will usually respond. Asil Wisotwa, one tribe, so quite conducive to do business. If I was an investor, definitely. Yeah. So there's a lot of good things we have on our side.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. They did not lie to me. Everyone said it would be an illuminating conversation, and it really was. Thank you so much. And thanks to you also for tuning in to Echoes of the Kingdom. Until next time, please do click, share, like, and subscribe. And let's interact on those social platforms. Tell us what you think about this interview. What did you learn? What are some of the nuggets that will stay with you? This is Echoes of the Kingdom, connecting eras, one voice at a time.